Welcome back to the Psychedelic Archives. My name is Nathaniel Perl, and I am the creator of this project I'm working on. If you are unfamiliar with the Psychedelic Archives, I encourage you to watch the first episode. I'll call it the introduction episode, and it'll give you a better picture of what this project aims to be. The psychedelic experience has been a pivotal change in the way I go about life, the way I understand life, and the way I understand myself. And I'm forever grateful and appreciative for what it has done for me. And I will continue to scream it off the top of the rooftop for the rest of my life because I know the benefits. So what better way to illustrate these benefits than to share? So today I'm going to share with you a story of a very recent experience I had. And it really helped me process a lot of information and a lot of turmoil inside that I wasn't really integrating into my life. So I'll get into that story. Before I do, I'd just like to mention, if you're enjoying this, if you want to be more supportive of this podcast, and maybe even join, I invite you to like, share, subscribe. This will be on YouTube and all the platforms, Spotify, iTunes. And let's try to create a platform where we can all be a part of. So whether you'd like to join in on this podcast and share your story, or you know of people who have incredible stories, please send them a message and connect us, because I would like to grow this network and have so many different stories come on and guests, so we can all kind of, in a way, see the connections, because we're all experiencing different experiences when we do psychedelics, but there's a lot of similarities. And I think if we can create a stage for all of us to share our stories, we will start to discover how similar these things are, and maybe we might get a better way to navigate through them, to navigate this world and get a better understanding of these experiences. For those who have experienced psychedelics and those who are curious, this will be a really nice encyclopedia, if you want to call it. Okay, let's get into my 5-MeO experience. So I would say this happened about a month ago. I had this overwhelming sense of anxiety and stress deep inside, and I couldn't put my finger on it. I would meditate. I would, even eating healthy and exercising, nothing was getting rid of this sensation. So usually when these kind of moments happen, I call it almost like the calling, because when I'm in that state, something pops in my head. Most of the time it's ayahuasca. It says, this is the calling. Other times it's not any substance. It's just, hey, we need some silence. So then I'll go into a meditation. And I kind of intuitively allow the calling to come in without much manipulation. So it's not always, I got to go do ayahuasca. It's, I'm feeling uncomfortable. Ayahuasca is the solution. It's more, let's really listen. Let's feel what's happening and what arises. So in this case, 5-MeO came to mind. 5-MeO is a type of DMT similar to the NN-DMT, which most people have heard about, where Terence McKenna famously says, you'll meet aliens and machine elves and all sorts of fun stuff. The 5-MeO experience is a little bit different molecularly, and to me, it's one of the most potent, powerful psychedelic experiences known to man. It's a quick experience, up to 30 minutes. You completely dissolve from your ego. You completely dissolve from this world. And then you enter this state of vibration. Usually not very visual, very sensory based. But for me, this experience was very visual, which was a surprise. So let's get into it. I went to my facilitator, and I can't stress enough how important it is to have a facilitator when you're doing these deeper work medicines like 5-MeO or ayahuasca, because you want to have you want to have a sense of comfort and safety. So you don't have to think about these moments when you're in the experience. That's the importance of set and setting, your mindset going into it and the setting environment. So having a good facilitator, I can't stress that point enough, who knows how to take care of the environment, the external environment. So the internal environment is completely yours with no interruption. The last thing you want is to feel unsafe in an environment where that unsafe feeling and stress infects your experience, I would call it. So an example is at a party. Lots of noise, people may be drinking, or there's a TV on. These kind of things, although may be very harmless at the surface, can really interrupt your experience. So I highly recommend having a facilitator, an experienced facilitator, when you do these kind of medicines. So everything was set, the stage was set for me. I had the altar prepared, and I explained what was happening and how I'm feeling, and I trust my facilitator to know what to do in terms of from what he's gathering, what information he's gathering from me, and what he feels is necessary. And I offer that state of trust where I don't need to control how deep I want to go, or it's all like a student with a teacher. You tell me and I follow. So we started with a very small, moderate dose and see how it goes. And for me, I'm very sensitive with medicines. I feel it very deeply. So for me, almost dosage doesn't really mean much. It used to when I was younger, but now that I understand how to disassociate a bit better from the ego, I'm able to get pretty deep even at small doses. So we did this. I did the dose, and I pulled. You want to take one big inhale, so I was pulling, and then I exhaled. I did about, I think, 5 or 10 seconds on the inhale, and then I held it for about 5 seconds, and then a full exhale. And by the time I exhaled, the room was gone, and everything was just disappeared. It's a familiar place if you have done it before, and that can be your first step if it's your first time. Experiencing something like this is not freaking out when the world you're in is gone from you. That's a tough work, just that slip away. Are you dead? Are you dying? Do you exist? These are big fears that can kind of hit you all at once. And the best way to go about it is just surrender and breathe through it. And then it's just like, oh, okay, I'm here. And then you go, I'm here. And then eventually it's just, I'm nowhere. And that doesn't freak you out anymore. So for the sake of the story, I'll continue. That portion was fine. I didn't have any panics about leaving. But then I noticed there was a visual, and that I wasn't really used to. Usually the 5-MeO experience for me is very sensory overload. I'm just in a vibrational state where I don't exist, no thoughts, nothing, and it's just like bliss in a sense. But I had this big visual of this like big black hole, planet, black hole thing, sphere. And it was massive, and it was in my chest. And I was looking at this thing, I'm like, and my thoughts were still there. I'm like, okay, I'm still in the ego. I'm in the in-between realm where I'm still connected, but yet there's like a tether still attached to this realm. So I'm looking at this big black spherical thing, and I see these satellites orbiting it. In all directions, they're just going to orbiting it. And the best way to describe it is like it's a black star. And there's like these black solar flares. And then these things that navigate it kind of push it back in and just continue navigating it. And I realized this is the darkness I have in me. And I realized the navigation was actually orbiting it and nurturing it. And I was orbiting this black hole. And anytime there's a solar flare, I would put it back in, and okay, it's stable, let's continue on in life. And then something else would flare up, and then I'd kind of pack it back in, and it just kept going from unstable to stable. And this thing kept getting bigger because it's like when something is so compressed, it starts to expand. And it could be, in a sense, visually like the Big Bang, where it just gets so much internal pressure that it grows, it explodes into something. So I realized I never actually was dealing with what was inside it or contained inside this thing. I was just navigating, orbiting, and nurturing, but not entering. And it scared the shit out of me. I came out of the experience and I was very worried. You know, I broke into tears. I was explaining to him that there's this thing inside and it's killing me, and I'm not addressing this deeper layer. And I want to go back and I want to go inside. I want to find out what this thing is. That was what I kept telling him. I want to know what this is. So the first experience was just navigating and orbiting. And I say, okay, let's go deeper. Well, he said we'll go deeper, but I said, I want to go inside this thing and see what it is. Go into the ugly and discover what I'm looking at, you know? So we go in a deeper dose. And dosages, not too sure, but it was more. Same idea, 10-second pull, about 5-10 second hold. And I don't even know how long I was holding it till, because I was gone by the end of the inhale. So what happens is, same idea, existence is gone. I see the black hole. I'm like, oh my God, let's go in. Fly into the black hole. And this is the funny part, where it's like psychedelics have this inherent comedic aura around it, where it's like they'll show you like some dark memories or whatever, and then they'll make fun of you. So it's like come on, you know, like they'll show you something like so horrifying in your life that maybe affected like years of patterns, and then they'll be like, you idiot, you know, something like that. And then they bring in comedy into it. So psychedelics are very playful in that sense, where it kind of like, it goes from serious to unserious, from serious to unserious, from very serious to very funny, to super offensive, to really sensitive. So it's like, that's the fine line you get in these experiences, and you kind of have to ride the waves. And that kind of helps you navigate through life better, because we take things serious and then we laugh, and then, you know, so it's good to humble yourself. So I go into this thing and I'm looking, I'm like, and as I'm going, it's like I'm flying through this black hole, and I'm just noticing it's all light. It's just light. So it might even be a black hole, because they say, I don't know how sure they are about it, but a black hole can swallow a star, or it's an imploded star, and then their light gets trapped in a black hole. So maybe I was in my own black hole. And the cosmic joke that I laugh at is that one thing came to mind, whether it was my thought or a thought from the above, who knows? And it said, who's looking at what? And just pause there. Who's looking at what? Can you answer that honestly? Oh, but I'm looking at it. Oh, okay. Who are you? I guess Nathaniel? That's like what my parents called me, and now everyone refers to me as, but okay. So let's play that game. Okay, Nathaniel's looking at what? I don't know. A black hole, I guess. So that question can't even be answered. Who's looking at what? And the answer is, nobody's looking at nothing. And that, gone, disappeared. And that's the cosmic joke, is like, you're this powerful thing that I had in my mind about what this thing is, and this thing is so strong, it takes over my life, it's so powerful, I got to go in and figure it out. And then I go in, and then the joke is, who's looking at what? Basically a slap in the face. It was so humbling, because it made me realize there's nothing to look at. Yes, there's darkness in all of us. Yes, there's this pain that we all carry. Is it necessary to go into each avenue of pain and find the root cause and work through each strain and just keep pulling around threads? Yeah, I think it's important for bigger things that dictate patterns like addiction and stuff. but keep pulling. That's just the mind, the intellectual, egoic mind that's trying to find new things to solve, because we're problem-solving apes. But the deeper understanding is knowing, recognizing, and understanding that we all have it inside of us, but we don't necessarily have to live by those terms. We can understand that there is pain in all of us. We can heal as much as needed, but we can live a life, a more pure and honest life, aside from that, with always having that as a reference point. So that's what I got out of it. It wasn't necessarily needing to go into every hole and fix all these things. It was more about understanding that I have that inside me and accepting and loving that part of me and not living by it. You know, I have this inside me, but I choose to live this way. That's the main lesson I got out of it. Humbling, funny, brutal, definitely brutal, because these things actually only have the power that you give it. So if I convince myself that, oh, this pain, I got to fix it, and then I can spend years of therapy and all sorts of different things just trying to understand this. Meanwhile, life is going on and I'm not necessarily focusing on that. I'm focusing on this. And that could be powerful. That is a good practice. But at some point you have to come to this moment and learn and find acceptance. And so that was my big takeaway from that experience. It was very powerful because now I recognize we all have these monsters inside of us. And it's not about eliminating them. It's about understanding it, recognizing it, revealing it. It's good to reveal it, but to live in a different way, knowing that the cliff inside of us is there, that we can always jump into the abyss. That's a more honest approach than to push it down with this positive idea and everything's positive and pretend like it doesn't exist. No. It exists. It's there. Beautiful. I saw it for what it was, and it only has the power I give it. And then I can live on a more pure and honest life through real intention, not dictated by that pain. And that's what I got out of the psychedelic experience with the 5-MeO. Thank you for listening. I hope this resonates with some of you. And once again, just, give us a little bit of a subscribe, a like, whatever you do, 5-star, 4-star, whatever you feel. I'll be putting out these pretty often. I'm going to try to get some guests on. So if you have a story, please share. Give me a little video. We'll talk. We'll get you on this. We'll share your story. And yeah, this is episode 1, I believe. So watch as this also progresses. I'll probably share a few more stories. I have a psychedelic journal loaded with stories, so there's never a shortage of that. But I would like to hear from others, and I'm sure all you would like to hear from others. So thank you very much for joining me on this journey. Stay tuned with the Psychedelic Archives. A lot is going to happen, and a lot's coming. So until next time.